So the ICC World Cup schedule for 2023 is finally out earlier today, and it was something that obviously a lot of people were very relieved about, because it's been a while. You keep hearing stories about the schedule will be out this time, that time, never came. It's finally here today, but unfortunately another little spanner in the works just had to be thrown in, and again, no surprise really, it comes from Pakistan.
Yes, of course, and the statement that came out of PCB is something that reads,
well, it is exactly this. It says that the PCB requires the government of Pakistan's clearance for any tour to India, including the match venues. We are liaising with our government for guidance, and as soon as we hear something from them, we will update the event authority, that is the ICC. This position is consistent to what we had told the ICC a couple of weeks ago when they shared with us the draft schedule and sought our feedback.
Well, PCB actually has been, in their sense, they are right about this, because they have been consulting with the ICC even before the Asia Cup spat that happened between BCCI and PCB, when Najam Sethi went ahead and met with Greg Barclay, the ICC chair, and the other ICC official members. It was made very clear by PCB that there were some conditions that were to be followed when it came to the World Cup. The basic one being that they weren't very keen on playing the final at Ahmedabad, and also they weren't keen on playing India in Ahmedabad. So there were a lot of questions about it and a lot of back and forth about it, but PCB had made it very clear that whenever it came to the venue of the World Cup, it would be subject to what their government says. If for every single venue, PCB will have to take permission from the government, and that's what PCB is saying now as well. And ICC Greg Barclay had kind of talked to Najam Sethi and said that if India kind of agrees on the hybrid model, please do not put the conditions forward when it comes to the World Cup.
Correct.
But then PCB, of course, it is a cricketing board, but then you ultimately have to listen to your government and what they say, right, when it comes to security. And since there was already so much tension between the two countries, between the two boards, that I think now it has come to, well, the statement, it has come to this, that in totality, at the end, now PCB is saying that it is not confirmed whether or not they will play in the venues that have been listed in the schedule now.
It's very weird timing, truth be told, but also when you think about it, remember Greg Barclay and the ICC did have those conversations, but they were with Najam Sethi. It's also worth remembering that Najam Sethi is no longer in power. No. He was there. He was there as the temporary, interim chairman. Now is on the way out. You have Zaka Ashraf who will be coming in. And again, maybe this stance has something to do with the change in regime as well, but it doesn't make that much sense, because whilst you understand, and I understand that India have a consistent stance there too, that they need government clearance if they ever are to play in Pakistan, and I understand that being an issue. It's been public knowledge for years at this point that India would be hosting this tournament. It has been. So you mean to tell me that in all this time you couldn't get governmental clearance?
No, it's not about playing in India. It's about some troublesome or worrisome
it's
venues,
partly down to that as well.
According to them, what's suiting them or what's not suiting them.
The first line says, requires the government of Pakistan's clearance for any tour to India.
Yes.
Which means any place. It didn't matter what the venues were. You could have had 10 different venues. They'd have still been talking about the fact that we need government clearance, which is fair.
Yes.
I get it. Politics does tend to come into these matters. But again, as I say, it's been known for a while at this point that India are going to be hosting the tournament. This is no big secret. Is this just their way of kind of trying to bite back for the whole hybrid model thing? Does seem an awful lot like that.
It does seem like that. And PCB made this offer of hybrid model, and right after that, Najam Sethi had come forward and talked to the ICC about this governmental permission of wanting to visit India, and that the Pakistan team is, although kind of agreeing on wanting to tour India, but it will come down to whether or not the government gives them permission to tour India or to play matches on these particular venues. We don't know what venues they are, which is causing them worry. But then, of course, Najam Sethi had talked about it, and Najam Sethi had tried a lot as in he put a lot of efforts in wanting that hybrid model to
for
work.
the World Cup as well.
Yes,
if you
for the
remember.
World Cup as well, and it was quite clear that Najam Sethi was keen on having like a sort of a peaceful conversation or a peaceful decision over what happened. What was to happen during the Asia Cup, but then since there is a sudden change in the regime, Zaka Ashraf is coming in, and as soon as he came in, he talked about not wanting or much better wanting to host the entirety of the Asia Cup in Pakistan, which is of course not viable for India. And since ACC had already agreed on it, ACC made sure, and the ACC official members said that there will be no changes as such. But then now when it comes to the World Cup, now this is a much bigger platform, right? There are multiple countries involved. It's just not the Asian countries, and a lot has to be considered. Now if Pakistan is the only country, or PCB is the only board that's kind of resisting these ideas or these venues, it's going to be very difficult for BCCI or the ICC to deal with it, especially now that the schedule is out. It's not a draft anymore, it's out.
Exactly, and as I said, it was sent 2 weeks back.
Yeah.
What were happening in those 2 weeks? And again, I go back to my original. What was happening for all this while? You knew the World Cup was going to be played in India. The schedule's release has been delayed for so long because of the same reason. And now it doesn't seem like we've heard the last of it, but I do also feel, and you can also weigh in on this, is that I don't think this tactic is getting them anywhere. If they do indeed go the whole hog and say, you know what, we're not going to play the World Cup, then it's only them who's going to be the big losers, because they'll have to be not only not playing a World Cup A, but be met with harsh ICC sanctions B.
Exactly. And I think it's just, like you said rightly, it does look a lot like Pakistan's PCB's way of biting back into the sort of the hybrid model
whole
thing.
fracas.
Yeah, the whole debacle that happened over the Asia Cup. It honestly looks like that. But then again, of course, you have to consider that there are political tensions between the two countries. And when we talk about Pakistan, of course, they don't have a good history at Mumbai. They don't want to play in Ahmedabad. They also don't want to play certain countries
in certain venues,
at certain venues, which is I don't think that's very sensible of them to ask for when it comes to ICC or anyone. I think that's not fair.
Exactly, you can't be doing that, but one does get the feeling that we haven't quite heard the last of the story. Of course, if you keep this is the update for now. We'll be bringing you more updates from this as and when they happen. So thank you guys for joining us. Please don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap the bell, leave us a comment. Also,
download the SportsTech app
and follow us across social media.
Yes.
Right now, from Gargi and me, it's goodbye.